So, I just watched episode 5 of The Mighty Nein. For those of you who are new here, I'm a big fan of the original D&D campaign that The Mighty Nein is based off of. Wow, this was quite an episode. This episode heavily focused on Caleb's backstory, which, following the trend of this entire show, is so early. We find out about all of this so much later in the campaign, and it is very interesting introducing it this early. I don't know how to feel about it. Basically, at the end of the last episode, they get confronted by a Volstrucker wizard assassin lady that is after either Bo or Caleb or both, and they have a fight and win. They're really taking advantage of the fact that it isn't D&D and they don't have to follow a kind of a leveling progression system. So all of the characters, sans like Ford, feel very powerful on the onset. Like the whole thing with Caleb's relearning of his magic, which is still a plot point, I think. He just feels so much... he feels way more powerful at the onset of the story than in the campaign. Same with Bo. Like, Bo defeats her with, I think, Stunning Strike in this fight. Stunning Strike, she doesn't get until much later in the story. So it's just they feel much more powerful, and they can get away with that because of they're no longer following the structure of a, game, which is really cool and allows them to do some cool things. During that fight, the assassin destroys Caleb's amulet that protects him from scrying spells and divination. Bold choice. Basically, by the end of this story, it's very clear that Trent now knows that he's around and where he is. Interesting choice, but narratively probably a smart choice to kind of have Trent and his whole deal breathing down the party's neck a little earlier in the story, because before, Caleb holds on to that thing like the whole campaign, and they can't track him the whole campaign. Having him lose that ability at the onset of the story is really cool narratively. Like, Trent will now be on their tail this whole time, which will make the plots more stressful, which is why they did it, I assume. Although they must have nerfed the power of scrying, because if those wizards can scry on them, they are so screwed. He needs a new amulet really quick. Gosh, I gotta see the next episode. Like, how are they gonna play that? Oh my god. But we'll see. So Ford gets injured during the group, and then there's a subplot about them trying to heal him that gives most of the group something to do while Caleb and Bo interrogate the assassin wizard. And I like this here because we get to see the contrast of Bo, who's very abrasive and harsh and kind of sees herself as the bad cop, is not as brutal as Caleb, especially early campaign Caleb. Seeing Caleb torture people is interesting because it was only implied in the campaign itself that he's been trained in that sort of thing.
So, we have questions, and I don't want to alarm you. None of us want to put an axe in your head or anything. We're all tired. I'm tired. But I'll go to work if I need to.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
He definitely threatened it a bunch in the campaign, and seeing that side of him feels right for the character. Because it all deals with his Volstrucker training, which is very expanded upon in the episode. We kind of go back and see Caleb's life and how he got started at the Solstice Academy and how he was groomed by Trent to be a Volstrucker assassin. And seeing that is very fun from a fan perspective, because these are things that are only kind of talked about in the campaign itself, and seeing that training on screen and seeing his relationship with Astrid and Aedwulf on screen is really fun. Those are only things that were kind of implied and hinted at. I mean, the Astrid and Aedwulf college threesome, that Liam heavily implied in the campaign itself is just blatant here, and we love to see that. Showing it interspersed with this torture scene basically really drives home the point of what that entailed. Placing all this information here in the 5th episode of the show is wild. Putting it here recontextualizes Caleb so early, and I'm not sure how I feel about it, because when painting a depiction of a character, the order that you reveal information in is very important, and revealing that information that early has side effects. I'm not saying necessarily that those side effects are bad yet, but they could be. In the campaign, they paint a very clear picture of who Caleb is now. The shadow of himself, the brokenness, the pain, the self-loathing, the darkness, the way that is portrayed is very clear, and then you find the reason for it, and then you find out who he was. And there's a clear divide between the tortured person that he is now and Bren, who he was. And that line is pretty clear, and it's different, and there's only like moments in the story where you see who he once was. You see glimpses of who he once was and who he could have been and who he could still be, but there is a clear line there. The line is very blurry in the show. Like, there's a lot of Bren in Caleb in this show. More Bren than there is in the original. And at the end, he like kills the Volstrucker in full-on Bren fireball method. Like, he feels still kind of there, and I think changes Caleb's character quite a bit. So in the campaign, Caleb has this deep-seated PTSD trauma associated with fire, and every time someone dies to fire in his field of view, he literally has to roll the dice, or he has kind of basically is stunned in horror for a round or two.
Yeah. I need you to go ahead and make a wisdom saving throw, please. Caleb's arms kind of just fall slack and he slumps to his knees, kind of staring at the now flaming corpse of the
Not
troll.
having that be a thing and not establishing how horrified he is really changes how that backstory feels to the audience. Because at the end of it, you kind of are unclear of where Caleb is emotionally about this. You see him crying and weeping. It's like, does he regret it? Is the fact that that's a little unclear in the narrative, I think feels like a mistake, because it's such a core part of who he is in the original campaign. His whole, like, so horrified by what he's done thing, that by the time he tells the story, you have no confusion over how he feels about it. Like, it's clear that, like, oh, this created who we see today. But in this, it's very unclear how he feels about it. It's just not portrayed clearly, because they kind of don't have him have fire PTSD. Like, he has this one moment when he's about to burn a dead body, but chooses not to. But in the actual fight, it never happens. Which I think is a shame, because it was a core part of him. It also led to some great Caleb and Molly moments.
Come to the priest and douse the flames, and then give Caleb a good slap in the face.
Caleb comes to.
Hey! Back in the game. Time for that later. You alright?
Yeah.
Alright, big kiss on the forehead and I'm walking away.
Which I think is a difference in character. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just different. I think you could do some really cool character arcs and some even stronger parallels to Essek and the Volstruckers that are now becoming a much more stronger part of the story anyway. So I can see how that could be an interesting thing. But it does feel like this is not the Caleb we we knew. It's a different Caleb. Slightly different, but still there. This is also made stronger by the depiction of the burning of his family. It's made more brutal by showing that Frumpkin totally was in that fire. It's heavily implied that he was, but seeing it so explicitly is horrifying. Dear God. Horrifying. I mean, it's very classic Liam, but damn, that is rough. Rough. Visually, I think it works really well. There's even the showing this small thing of his transmutation, that he helps with his father build a fence, and then he uses it to shut all the doors of his parents' house to burn them. Oh my God. It's so bad. So effective. My only issue with the way they did that is I think they made the explanation of why he did it a little too subtle. Like, I know the deal there, but it confused someone watching it with me of like, why did he do that? And like, it was a little too subtle. I think it needed to be clearer, the stated reasoning that his parents were deemed traitors and all of that stuff. Now, I don't know if they're changing the reasoning though, because they make no mention in the story of Trent putting false memories in his head or anything like that. It's possible that in this version he doesn't know yet, or are they removing it? I don't know how I feel if they're removing that aspect, because I don't think it read too cleanly the way they have it now of like why he did it, because now I don't know. It feels, as someone who knows what happened, it felt fine, but as someone who doesn't, I think there was a disconnect. Like watching someone else watch it and their confusion, I don't think it was clear what happened there and why he did that and the factors that went in. I think that might be intentional on the show because they might be intending to reveal the modify memory later. We'll see. We'll see. But regardless of what happened and what Caleb knows about it, Caleb is telling the group now, before they have even hit Zadash. And he tells them, like, many episodes later in the show. I am interested in seeing the implications of revealing that information now. And also, I think with most of the group there, they didn't have Yasha there, so they can still have the Yasha Caleb killed his whole family confusion.
What do you mean Caleb killed his whole family?
It's a figure of speech where I'm from.
What does the figure of speech mean? Yeah. Like, how would you use it in a sentence?
Revealing this information before the group like kind of cares about Caleb, like the relationship Caleb has with the group is not really established yet, and this information is already out of the gate, I think might affect the relationship. Maybe not. Actually, probably not. I don't know. We'll see. It's kind of wild. It cuts off before he tells them stuff. So we don't know if he talks about what happened after the burning of his family. Dear God. Oh my God. We'll see. Really great Not and Caleb moments. Oh my God, Not and Caleb. I'm going to go off a tangent here. Not and Caleb, this episode, great. They almost word for word adapt Not's speech about her relationship to Caleb.
Caleb and I have a very special relationship. It is that of a parent and a child.
But I am the parent. You do understand that, correct?
But I am the parent. You do understand that, correct?
It is magnificent. I was very happy to see it. And it says a lot about how good that moment was in the campaign itself, that they really lifted it almost word for word.
I protect him.
He's my boy, and I keep him safe.
I keep him safe so he can get better and stronger and achieve great things.
Because he can achieve great things. When I found him, he was nothing.
When I found him, he was nothing. Just a scared little boy in the corner of an alley.
they've been pretty consistent about not lifting direct quotes from the campaign. They usually have new dialogue that's a synthesis of the dialogue that was there. But not in this scene. When Not explains her motherly role and how she feels about Caleb and the maternal instincts associated with that, and just how raw that is, they were like, nope. Sam did that perfectly the first time. We're not even gonna touch it. I respect that, because I agree. That was so early in the campaign, and I feel like I wasn't sure about the characters at that point, and that was such a tying moment for me in the campaign of I got so invested in that whole thing, and it worked so well. That I'm happy about. Placing it here is another story, because placing it here after the audience knows what Caleb has done to his family recontextualizes that whole thing in a very interesting way. It's not necessarily a bad way, but it does mean that coming off seeing him burn his own mother to death there's like an undertone of dread, panic, disturbing horror that is not in the original but is here, because you're like, oh dear God, that's what he did to his last mother figure. And you're like, oh God, no. Interesting. It's interesting placing it here. It's interesting placing everything here. I'm looking forward to the next episode. That was the biggest thing that hit me like a truck, was like, I have to see the next episode right now. Oh, I can't binge it. It's gone. That's so frustrating. It's great. It's great. I am so excited to see how this turns out. It's so interesting how this is playing out. Like, wow. It's crazy. It's so crazy. Oh my God. But what did you think of the 5th episode of The Mighty Nein? Tell me what you think in the comments. If you like this review, please subscribe. Also, I have a book, Bone Song, Diary of a Sentient Sword. I release chapters for free every week. Click the link below if you're interested. Happy reading. Take care.